Welcome to Sacred Magic. Violet is on a quest to bring sacredness back into our everyday experiences. Anyone can have an extraordinary life when they are able to tap into their sacred magic within. Violet and her guests will be sharing their divine passions, inspirations, and stories of connecting with their sacred magic. We are so happy you have joined us today. Let's get started with your host, the magical creator of Discover Your Spiritual Gifts, Vialet Rayne.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sacred Magic Podcast. I'm your host, Vialet Rayne, and today I have a guest all the way from Australia. So those that are listening, watching, it's midnight his time, so we're going to give him just a little bit of grace today that he has stepped on and joined us. Todd helps guide people back to a place of peace and love within themselves to experience their true nature so that they can heal from within and navigate their daily lives with awareness, clarity, clear intention, and inspired action. After working with sound as a sound engineer for over 12 years, Todd's own personal spiritual journey collided with his love of sound, and he was guided into the work of sound healing. Over the past 4 years, Todd has helped hundreds of people gain clarity and awareness around situations in their life, as well as helping them shift any stagnant energy so they can overcome physical pain, emotional struggles, trauma, and improve their health and relationships and live a more peaceful and loving life. Todd looks forward to sharing his passion for sound with you all and to help you transform your life and remember your true nature of being. So I love sound. I love sound healing. So talk to us about how you got from what you did before to doing this. What I feel like people are awakening and having their own special journey or awakening. And so I always like to share those stories to begin with.
Sounds great. First of all, thanks so much for having me on the podcast, Violet. Really appreciate it. Been
Yeah.
looking forward to this. um, yeah, it's really interesting story. Like you said, I started off as a sound engineer. I was doing sound for film and television and radio. I was teaching sound for 5 years as well, working with musicians. I was just so immersed in this sound, this audio world. But the whole sound healing thing was just not even on my radar. And probably about a good 10 years into my career as a sound engineer, I'd really dived into my own spiritual path. I was meditating, I was doing the breath work, I was getting into yoga, I was just really looking at my own path, my own journey. And I'd been to a few sound healing sessions before and I absolutely loved them. And I thought this is amazing because I understand sound. I know what's happening. I've got an idea of the kind of frequencies that are coming out of these instruments, the way they might be impacting me, or how the sound is traveling around the space that we're in, and that's why it's sounding like it does with the reverb in the room and all these different things. And anyway, I went to a few sound healings. I loved them, and then I just kind of carried on with my life. But then one day the penny just dropped, and I always like to say it was like a swift kick in the butt from the universe. It was the penny dropped, and I thought I should be doing this. This aligns perfectly with what I do. It combines my love for sound and music, but also it gives me an opportunity to be of service to others. And I've always had that really strong belief at my core that we're here to be of service to others. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to give this a shot. I already had some instruments, so I went out and I got a few more bits and pieces and sort of put together what I thought would be a great starting point. And within a few weeks, I was all booked up for the next few months. I was collaborating with yoga studios, I was doing one-on-one sessions, I was doing private small group sessions in people's homes. And so it really just flowed so effortlessly. It really was this sort of divine nudge from the universe that just put me on this path. And thankfully I listened because yeah, it was just one of the most beautiful moments. And to look back to see how it all sort of unfolded to where it is now is just really beautiful.
Well, most people don't realize if you really sit and think about it, the music we listen to and sound, it changes our moods, it shifts who we
Hmm.
are, it brightens our day and what we're listening to. And we don't even think about the implications it really does have. So people go to sound baths like you and they really love them. They don't understand what all's happening physically
Mm.
and what all they're releasing. So share with us a little bit from your experience of working in sound and what you've seen people like release or move through, or how sound really helps us on many levels.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so when someone comes along to a sound healing session, or if people are new to this, they might have heard them called sound baths, sound journey, all these different variations. They're essentially the same sort of thing. Uh, they're getting the opportunity to be able to step into an environment that has been designed to be able to help them get into a deeply restful and receptive state. So what I do with my intention, which is obviously a very important part of it, my own energy, my own intention, and the instruments and the sounds, the vibrations that I use, it allows people to drop into this really, really deep, sort of relaxed, receptive state where they're able to get this opportunity to get clarity around different situations in their life, to experience healing, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, whether it's something that's playing on their mind, something more spiritual. And the shifts and the changes that I've seen people have over the years is just it's just amazing. Everything from, I've had people that have said they've had really bad hip pain and they've not been able to even get up out of a chair. And at the end of the session, they just stand up and they go, "Oh my goodness, that pain has shifted. What's happening? I'm moving with ease." Whether it's emotional struggles, I've had people come up to me and share with me at the end of a session that they've been really struggling with something with their partner or someone at work, or their mum or their dad, and they get these aha moments, this sort of clarity that comes through in these sessions when they're in these beautifully relaxed state, and it allows them to shift that, that fear, that sort of trapped energy, that trapped emotion that they've just been holding on to and sort of just pushing deeper and deeper and not giving themselves the time to really work through. They get this clarity, they get this breakthrough, and then sometimes the tears will even flow and they'll actually have that release in the moment. It really is it really, really is a powerful thing, and it's all about that. The body wants to get back to that sort of balance. The body wants to be healed. And sometimes we just get in our own way, and we've got so many things happening on all these layers of thoughts and feelings and emotions and all this stuff going on, as we often can in life. And when we give ourselves the time to just be still and to allow the sound to get us to that place of beautiful deep rest, then we can really have some incredible breakthroughs and some incredible shifts.
I love that. I love that. I think for most individuals, and I'm saying a very broad statement, for most individuals, we take our emotions, what we can't say in reality, or what we think we can't say, and we stuff
Hmm.
it and we keep
Hmm.
stuffing it.
Hmm.
It's almost like a pot that we just keep stuffing these emotions,
Hmm.
these thoughts down into our body. And what we don't realize is it has an impact on our physical, which is where pain may come from.
Hmm.
Illness, disease starts there because we're stuffing. And what I found was sound is, if you notice when you go to a sound bath or a sound healing, it takes a few minutes for you to really relax. Like, because you're holding everything so tight
Hmm.
throughout the day, and we get this
Yeah.
really tightness. And to have somebody go through a personal healing, sound healing session, or a sound bath, or a group of sound bath, it takes a little bit for you to start to relax and start to let go. And as you go deeper and deeper, as Todd has mentioned, into the sound, your body gets more and more relaxed. So guess what happens to all that energy, that stagnant, stuck energy that we've stuffed and stuffed and stuffed for weeks, days, years,
Hmm.
centuries into our body? And people do get emotional because now they're releasing something that they haven't thought about. Maybe it was something in their childhood and when they were a teenager going to school or a relationship, and that stuff's coming up to be let go so that our body can get to that physical balance. I think a lot of people take sound for granted. Oh, I love going to the sound bath. It's pretty cool. But they don't really realize it's a healing session that's letting them, and scientifically we've looked at brain waves, right?
Hmm.
And when we're doing sound, we're getting to those deep brain waves, which allow us to really clear stuff and let it go and get that clarity within the sound that's happening. So there's so much happening on so many different levels. Now, Todd, I know I've experienced, and I think I know what's happening. Have you ever experienced someone that comes to the sound and they get agitated, uncomfortable with the sound? Like, I've had people get up and leave because they're like, I can't do this. And, I look at that and go, wonder what's going on there. What do you get from that? And then I'll share what I think is happening in those experiences.
Yeah, definitely. So pretty much almost every session there is someone who I can see is physically, and I can feel it. They are sort of wanting to resist, and it's usually if you I have a 22-inch shamanic drum, and that's one of the usual suspects when it comes to that feeling of wanting to push back against it. When I play this drum over people, it really grounds them and it really forces them to be able to sort of be so present in that moment that if there is something that's going to come to the surface, that's usually the time that it does. But of course, it can be different for everyone, different instruments. I've even had people come along for 2 nights in a row, and one night they'll love an instrument, and then the next night they'll hate that instrument and they'll feel like they want to push back. And essentially, what it is, it's the body doesn't really like change. We store these things, like you said, and we have these things in our subconscious, whether it's from our childhood, whether it's from previous lineages from further generations back, whatever it is. And the body doesn't really love change. It doesn't love to just sort of open and let all this stuff go. And so we get this moment where we're in such a deeply receptive state that it's the opportune time for this to come up and to be able to be shifted. But of course, our natural reaction is that this is something to sort of push against, to be fearful of, that we perhaps don't understand, that it's change. And so what happens is we want to be able to just push to the side and just run. And I have had the odd person have to get up and go outside. They feel like they have to clear their head, everything's just too much, it's too overwhelming. And I always say to people in these sessions that I ensure that when I set up these sessions, I hold a really deeply safe and loving space for everyone to be able to feel into that. And I always say to them, you've got your breath as that beautiful anchor. It's the perfect time and space to sort of witness these things from almost like a third person perspective, so that you can see and you can feel into these things to their full element, to really understand. Because when you can get into that sort of shadowy, darker stuff and you can see it, and you can shine a light on that, that's where the magic is. That's where you can actually really gain some incredible wisdom, and you can come out of a single session feeling like a new person. And I've had so many people that have experienced that. I had a woman just recently, I did a one-on-one session for her, who's going through a few things in her life. And at the end, she said, I feel like I've just shifted years in one session. And she said, honestly, I did not think I could ever feel this balanced in my life. And she just felt so at peace. And there were still some things to work through, and it's not all done in one session in one day. But it really is that powerful. And that's the unfortunate thing, is a lot of people will have that resistance and they'll want to push back. And of course, when we try and resist and we push against these things, they're only going to just bounce back and come back to us at some point, maybe even a little bit harder next time. So the more that we can sit with them, the more that we can allow the sounds and the vibrations to bring these things up for us, so that we can experience them in their whole, form of whatever it is, figure out where it's come from, why it's coming up, what it means for us. Then we can work through it. Then we can allow that vibration to be able to help shift that, so that we can get some more love and peace and joy and all those beautiful things back into our being and into our every single day. So it is very, very common, but it is good to see so many people taking on that sort of advice and that intention that I said at the start, so that they can then fully experience it and they can actually have those shifts and be able to let go in the moment. Yeah.
You're right. It's all about surrender, and it's all
Mm,
about
100%.
leaning into what's happening. And the reason I bring that up is I have a daughter that doesn't want to open her third eye, doesn't, she's comfortable. She understands what her life is. So she doesn't like sound at all. She'll go the other way. And
Mm,
that resistance of, I'm not ready to do that. I'm not ready to let that go. Sound is such a gentle way of healing. It is amazing
mm,
what it can release.
mhm,
I feel like with energy, and I've said this before on the show, I feel like we wind energy. It almost feels like it's wound, and sometimes it's wound pretty tight in what we're kind of pushing in and say and stuffing within our physical body. And so when you get a healing, a massage, a healing, a sound bath, whatever that is, it's trying to unwind that energy. And if you think about it, it didn't take you a minute to wind it up as tight as it is. It takes
mhm,
a little bit of time to unwind it and really to lean in and say, I'm safe. I'm okay. I'm going to lean into this so that I can let this heaviness go and surrender to the process is really, really powerful. And sound is so gentle, and how it helps us kind of release in a lot of ways compared to other types of healing. It really
mhm.
does allow our body to relax so that we can let that go. But resistance is, I'm not comfortable relaxing, or there's some fear or things that are happening. So, really, to surrender. You talk about finding stillness and reconnecting to your being. Share a little bit about what that means to you.
Yeah, certainly. So when I say my being, I'm just referring to the word that I use for soul, spirit, energy, consciousness, God, whatever words people like to use, that's totally fine. I just feel comfortable using the word being. I'll say universal being, that sort of thing. But essentially, we have all these layers, we have all these thoughts and feelings and emotions, these sensations, these perceptions of the reality that we've created, the world around us. And all of these things, they come and go. Thoughts come and go, and our feelings come and go. But at the end of the day, we are left with this being underneath, this core essence of who we are. Whenever we take time to be still, to whether it's through some sort of formal meditation, a sound bath experience, or even just taking a few minutes to just sit and connect to the breath and the body, and just be in a nice still calm place, which so many people don't give themselves the chance to do. You think about how busy everyone's lives are, mine included sometimes. Just taking 5 minutes in the morning to sit and connect to the breath and be still is too much for some, but it is super important, because when we do and we have this stillness, we get a chance to sort of peel back some of those layers, and all of a sudden we realize, hang on, the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, all of these things, they're not always there. What's always there? Well, it's this beautiful being, this consciousness, this soul, this energy that's underneath, that is me at my essence. And what is that? Well, it's present, and it's loving, and it's peaceful, and it's joyous, and it's all these wonderful things. And just being able to take some time to be still and to connect, or should I say, we're always connected, but to remember that that's there, and to then be able to live our life each day from that place of being, from that place of loving awareness, from that place of stillness and peace and joy. And it really has a massive knock on with our relationships and our jobs, our how we show up for our partners, our families, our friends. So I obviously use sound and music as a really nice way to be able to get me into that still place. I use things like binaural beats. People might have heard of those, where you're triggering certain brainwave states like alpha and theta to allow yourself to get into a very relaxed state nice and quickly. But I also sit with my instruments as well. I sit with my bowls, I sit with my drum or my flutes, and I just take some time each day to be able to just remember and come back into that core being of who I am. And I always find that there's so much love and gratitude and peace that's just in there. And I always find that it's such a beautiful experience. And I often do guide people in my meditations at the start of my sessions to this core being, this core essence. And I just try and live my life through that as much as I possibly can each and every day.
I love that. I love that. How can we incorporate more sound into our life? Because that's an amazing topic. So,
Hmm.
for people out there that are listening to this and going, hey, how can I do more of that? Share with us some of your ideas of how we can bring in more sound.
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, if you are into playing musical instruments and creating sound, wonderful. You know, you can play with some crystal bowls, some Tibetan bowls, grab a flute, whatever, whatever you like. But it doesn't have to be this sort of in a formal sound healing session. It doesn't have to be by playing your own instruments. It can be something as simple as just going for a walk in nature. The sound of nature is absolutely incredible. The sounds of the birds in the morning. The frequency of the bird's song is actually in a beautiful range that is pleasant to our ears, and that's why we like the sounds of birds in nature. So just getting out and into nature, going for a walk, listening to the birds, listening to the trees, listening to the breeze, listening to the sounds in the distance. Unfortunately, there's so much noise in our day-to-day lives, with all the fear and the news and all this sort of stuff. But not just that, just being busy in 9 to 5 jobs and everything else that people are dealing with. There's so much noise that it's important to take some time to be able to be in an environment where sound and music, of course, is part of sound, is a much more enjoyable and mindful experience. And that's why I always suggest going for a walk in nature is one of the simplest ways to bring in more sound. But of course, you can play with instruments, you can use binaural beats, you can certainly use meditation apps and things like that. And I have my own online meditations, which I'll share with you shortly, I'm sure. But there's lots of different ways to bring it in and just have fun, just be playful with it. It's really not something that needs to be this sort of really strict formal thing. Have a little bit of fun with it, and you'll find that you can really notice sound a lot more and notice the sort of become aware of how it makes you feel and how you can use these different sounds to enhance certain moods and emotions and shift you throughout your day.
I love that. I love that. Thanks for sharing that with us. You
My
mentioned your
pleasure.
meditation. Share with us, for people listening that would really love to connect with you, what are some of the things that you offer and how they can connect more to learn more about some of the things that you do?
Yeah, certainly. So I sort of mentioned before that I do group sound healing sessions as well as one-on-one sessions and private sessions and things like that. But I had quite a lot of people coming up to me at the end of the sessions and asking, they're saying, "Do you have recordings? Do you have online sessions? I'd like to be able to do more of this between the face-to-face sessions." And so I decided to create an online sound journey membership where I've got this library. I put up new sound healings each month, and I do sort of full, like 45 minutes to an hour long sessions. But then I also do just whatever I feel sort of called to do in the moment. So I do things like shamanic drum journeys. I recently did a beautiful flute journey. I actually introduced a flute that I've recently made myself because I like to curate and create different instruments as well. And so I just mix it up and do different sort of sound journeys and depending on the intention that I feel and what feels right in the moment. So basically, this was something that I wanted to offer because so many people were reaching out to me that weren't where I live. I said I'm in Perth in Western Australia, fairly small city, but I actually live 5 hours south of this, so I'm not always in Perth. So I'm back and forth, and so people were always reaching out and trying to find out what I could offer online. So that's obviously a great option for probably a lot of your audience as well, because I say it's a fair way to travel for a sound healing session all the way from the mountains.
Absolutely, but I bet it's amazing since your career started in sound, right? So being able to know how to mix that sound and coordinate it, I'm sure it's amazing. So I look forward. I'll have to check that out because I like sound as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. It was another thing that just flowed so easy because I already had a lot of the equipment, the microphones, I understand the way to record and get the most out of sound and layer the sound. So it was again a nice smooth transition that felt right. So yeah, people can find out about that on my website.
Okay.
It's mindfulvibrations.com.au. Mindful Vibrations is the sort of name that I go by. And also, when you go onto the site there, you'll see a bit about me and what I do, and you'll see a little membership tab at the top. So people can click on that. And there's also the social media links at the bottom. So people can follow me on Facebook and those sorts of things and see what my journey's all about and the things I'm offering. And if anyone has any questions about sound healing, if this is all a new experience, then feel free to reach out. Just jump on the social media there and send me a message. I'm always up for a chat and happy to help people out if they're wanting to get into experiencing more sound in their lives.
I love that. Thank you so much, Todd, for taking some time with us today. It's been a lovely conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I look forward to hopefully we'll connect again someday and maybe even me. You never know. I never put anything past the universe, right?
That's it. Sounds great, Violet. Thanks so much for having me. And yes, I would love to come over to Colorado and see the mountains. And I've never been over that way, but it sounds pretty awesome. So fingers
Yeah.
crossed one day we'll cross paths.
Right? Absolutely. You just never know. And those that have been listening and watching today, thanks for taking the time to listen or watch the podcast on whatever platform that you're on. We hope you'll like, comment, and follow and check us out. And I also wish everyone a very sacred and magical week. I hope you have a great one, and I'll see you next time.